Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Menopause Mindset Monday live in the group. Welcome to everybody who's watching. If you are watching, please say hello. So this is where we explore topics related to the menopause, the experience of the menopause, namely the perimenopause in all its colours, in all of its delights and all of its variations. So if you are ready to give up the doom and gloom around menopause and you're the kind of person who's really committed to making the menopause actually one of the best times in your life, yes, I said that, then please keep watching. Hello everybody. Hi Michelle, hi Melissa, hi Paula, hi Trisha. If you are watching, do let me know you are. Say hello, give me some hearts, give me some likes. And ask questions. I might not have all the answers, but I will go away and look them up for you. But pop them in the comments or comment if you like, and let's have a conversation around this. I'm going portrait today because there's something wrong with my phone and I can't do it landscape, which is a shame, but it's one of those things. Hi everyone, thanks for saying hi. So today's topic is hormones. What the bleep is going on? What the bleep is happening to me? And that's how I felt. I had no idea what was going on with me. I thought I had anxiety disorder, and you know, I probably did, but there was a root underneath that, and the root was increased cortisol, increased stress, lowering estrogen dominance, and all of this stuff that we're going to be talking about. So it's not very nice when you're left in the dark. And unfortunately, doctors don't talk about the perimenopause as much as we would like them to. So we need to step up and we need to demand better health care from our medical practitioners around women's health, really. So, you know, I think this is an important subject, and every woman absolutely has the right to know what is happening to her at this time in life. But like I said, you know, a lot of doctors, if you go to the doctors, they don't test. They do test, but their tests are not subtle enough to pick up the nuances of our experiences. So I had a test done called the Dutch test, and it sort of tests your hormones out the other side. There is a urine test, and it's looking at how the hormones have been metabolized, which gives you a much different picture. Now, just a word, I'm not a functional medicine practitioner. I have done a certification in peri to postmenopausal wellness, so I have a little bit of information about it, but I don't have masses and masses of information around. I don't have the in-depth stuff. As you can appreciate, this is medical stuff, so I know what I know, and hopefully it will be a good starting point for you. So the good news is that there are generalizations that we can learn about and understand, and there's plenty that we can do from a lifestyle point of view and a psychological point of view to help ease the symptoms, both physical, mental and emotional symptoms associated with perimenopause. Okay, so what is happening to us? Well, our hormones are changing, and hormones affect everything. Every function in the body is affected by a hormone. So estrogen has over 400 different functions in the female body. So estrogen will affect your libido, it will affect your soft tissue, your bones, your brain, your digestive health. It will affect your mood. It will affect your connective tissue. It will affect your bladder function, your bowel function, your liver, your skin, your organs, your vascular system, your heart, your lungs, your brain, your muscles, your joints, literally everything. And it's interesting to note as well that hormones do not work in isolation. So hormones dance around each other. There is an interplay. It's like a very intricate ballet that's going on. And one affects the other, which affects the other, which affects the other. So every system in the body is affected by hormones, which then has a knock-on effect with all of the other systems, if you know what I mean. And it keeps going. and they all become affected. So it's really hard to know where the root is. And that's why a Dutch test can help. I should be paid by Dutch test to do this, really. So every system in the body is affected by your hormones, and it just kind of goes on and goes on and goes on. You think of it like an orchestra with no lead. So every part of the orchestra has to be playing in perfect harmony, in perfect rhythm, in perfect timing with all of the other instruments to produce this lovely sound, or in our case, health, vibrant health. And if one section goes out of tune, it's going to affect the overall sound, but it's also going to have an effect on all the other players because they're not going to be able to keep time against the one that's going out of tune. Is that a good analogy? I hope it is. Okay, so there are how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, that's not correct. There are many different hormones that play a part in menopause. So you've got estrogen, you've got progesterone, you've got testosterone, you've got cortisol and adrenaline, you've got your thyroid, which is an organ, not a hormone, because that produces its own set of hormones, and you've got insulin. So you've got those sorts of 7 hormonal things being affected in perimenopause. And most of the problems, hi Linz, most of the problems that we experience in perimenopause are actually caused by estrogen dominance, not estrogen decline. So I wrote a post today on the not Mindset Monday, the Menopause Mindset thread, which is all about this idea of, is it estrogen dominance or is it estrogen decline? It's actually both, but those nasty symptoms that we get are usually a result of estrogen dominance. So estrogen dominance occurs when progesterone, so estrogen and progesterone both fall like this, all the way down, but progesterone tends to fall faster. So estrogen becomes the dominant hormone, and estrogen is a hormone of growth. So you get things like lumpy breasts, fibroids, endometriosis, painful periods, irregular periods and stuff like that, especially if you leave it unchecked. So you do need to keep estrogen dominance in check, otherwise it can get quite out of control. That's when you can end up with your cancers and stuff like that. So symptoms of estrogen dominance are breast tenderness, bloating, lumpy breasts, decreased sex drive. I mean, who wouldn't with all of that going on? Let's be honest. Irregular periods, bad PMT, mood swings, panic attacks and anxiety, right? Hello. Weight gain, yes. Recurrent yeast infections, yes. Restless legs, not so much, but yes. Hair loss, cold hands, cold feet, your extremities, trouble sleeping, yes. Hot sweats, yes. Night sweats, hot flushes, those sorts of things. Memory problems, fatigue, yada, yada, yada. You get the idea. Which one of those do you not have? Hi, Jacqueline. So, like I said before, estrogen dominance, if left unchecked and if it gets worse, it can lead to infertility, endometriosis, heavy bleeding, fibroids, and worst case scenario can really affect our heart health and our brain health. So like I said before, estrogen is a hormone of growth. Obviously we need it, but we don't need it in excess of progesterone. That's when the trouble sets in. So overall general estrogenic decline causes, again, the hot flashes, the night sweats, but it also causes things like vaginal dryness, which we get when we get older, which can make sex really painful and we don't really want to have it. We can also get lowered sensation in the vulva area and irritation as well. There are so many estrogen receptors in the vulva and the vagina, so we really do need to, you can use topical estrogen for your vulva. I haven't used it, so I can't personally recommend it, but if things do start getting a bit dry down there, you certainly have that option to investigate it. I know there are some really good creams on the market that can help with that, because it is a real issue and we want to enjoy sex as we get older. Why not? Pleasure is one of the things that can actually really help all of these symptoms, so we deserve it. And if there's things that we can do to help, that's great. So general estrogen decline can also cause bladder sensitivity and some pelvic issues as well, like prolapse. So I'm not painting a pretty picture, I know, but I think we obviously need to open the conversation and talk about this stuff, because there are things that we can do. So estrogen dominance and estrogen decline can affect us simultaneously. And again, often we don't know what we're experiencing, and that's why something like a Dutch test can really help. So of course you might recognize some of those symptoms in yourself, and of course they might be related to other hormone functions like thyroid or adrenals. And again, that's why it's better to test, don't guess. So if you are looking at healing from a hormonal point of view, there are 3 things that I think we really, really have to address. Gut health, in terms of your gut flora and gut dysbiosis, so leaky gut. We also need to look at, the long-term low-grade stress that you've been going through for the last 10, 15 years or your whole life. That's going to have a massive effect on your menopause. And we also need to look at blood sugar, so blood sugar instability and fluctuations. So looking at and fixing and repairing these 3 issues can significantly help the negative effects of estrogen dominance and estrogen decline and all the other stuff that goes with it. We really need good gut health for elimination. So constipation is not good for menopause. We need a really, really healthy bowel to make sure that we are eliminating that excess estrogen out of our body, because, like I say, it will have a knock-on effect further up the line, and we don't want that. So estrogen is also cardioprotective. It helps. I'm going to do probably a whole other live around estrogen, around heart health, because this is something that I have had issues with, palpitations and arrhythmia. And so I'd like to explore it further. But estrogen is cardioprotective, and the reason it is because it levels out cholesterol, the good and the bad, and it helps to stop the plaque building up inside your arteries, and it also keeps your arteries and veins really flexible, which is what we need for general health, obviously. And that is why your risk of cardiac disease goes up a lot. I don't know the actual stats, but your risk of cardiac disease goes up quite a lot when you reach menopause, because you don't have that protective estrogen. Yes. So, it's a wake-up call, isn't it, really? When we hit this midlife, we are really looking at anti-aging, we're looking at longevity, we're looking at ways we can decrease our degeneration, right? And it starts with lifestyle and mind as well. And I think, a lot of the blocks to creating and sustaining a healthy lifestyle come from the subconscious programming, which is obviously where I come in. So as a lot of you know, I'm a hypnotherapist and an RTT practitioner, and I have a real interest now in perimenopause and hormone health, because of what I've been through. And I can absolutely see the link in a lot of my clients who are mainly women at midlife, looking to change their eating habits, looking to reduce stress, looking to improve their sleep, but they can't do it because of all of these subconscious blocks that they have from childhood, trauma that's not been dealt with, and it all needs to be dealt with at this time of a woman's life. So what are some of the other symptoms at perimenopause? So yeah, at perimenopause, your periods can become less frequent. You can skip periods, they can generally become lighter, or they can become heavier because of the estrogen dominance, right? So again, it's so tricky to know what the hell's going on with me. I've got this, I've got that. How does it all work? Some women develop cramping for the first time because of the lower progesterone. So, you know, every time you have a period, you are getting really an insight into what is going on with your hormones. So it's an opportunity to take stock and have a look, take an audit. How's your health? Are you reaching for the ibuprofen, or are you going to start creating a lifestyle that is more sustainable as you go into this third age of your life? So you can be tested for perimenopause. So you can go to the doctors and get a test. They will check your FSH levels, which is your follicle stimulating hormone, which is the hormone that is released, which causes the ova to be released, the egg to be released. And if they are between 60 and 100, this FSH level is an indication that you are in perimenopause. But, you know, most women instinctively know that they are in perimenopause. They can feel it in their body. That said, unless you've heard the label perimenopause, you might think that you are going batshit crazy. You just are constantly burnt out and anxious, and that there's something totally wrong with you, but there's not. It's a natural change that we can do a lot about. Okay, so let's talk about progesterone for a little bit. Progesterone, oh, the wonder drug. So progesterone is the hormone that helps you get pregnant, and it really prepares the body for pregnancy. And this is the hormone that starts to decline at perimenopause. And that's why it's difficult to get pregnant in perimenopause, but not impossible. So still use contraception if you don't want to get pregnant. So progesterone has a very soothing, calming effect on the body. It's really anti-anxiety. It helps that vasodilation. It helps relaxation. It's an opening, expansive kind of hormone. It promotes brain function. It relaxes smooth muscle, the smooth muscle of the intestines and the vascular system. It helps us to tolerate pain. It helps us sleep. Why would you not want progesterone in your life? So you can think of it like this. Estrogen is the fertilizer that fertilizes the lawn. It makes everything grow. And then progesterone is the lawnmower that just comes along and gives it a good trim every now and again and keeps everything in check. So we do need both. So our bodies we have quite a large tolerance for progesterone because we're exposed to it a lot during pregnancy. So side effects of too much progesterone are rare, but they include things like varicose veins and depression. You can take synthetic progesterone, and I am not really going to comment on HRT and things like that because I don't have the knowledge. I think it's really important, if you are considering hormone replacement therapy, seek out a women's health specialist or a functional medicine practitioner that can help you with that. Now, you can buy progesterone creams. You can buy natural progesterone, which I think they called wild yam, but there's some dispute as to whether it actually works or not. People in the medical world say it doesn't work, and there is a reason for that, but it's too complicated for me to recount here. But the real progesterones, the sort of synthetic progesterones, I have tried them, but they've always made me quite sleepy and quite sluggish. I haven't tried them for a long time, so maybe it's different now. I'm actually in perimenopause. I think last time I tried it, I don't even think I was in perimenopause. But, you know, it's worth a shot. So have a little Google of progesterone creams and see what you find. It's all about being curious, really, and just doing the research yourself and really arming yourself with as much knowledge as you can, so that when you do go to the doctor, you know, you're not flying blind. You've got some words and some conversation. So, okay, there's good news. The good news is that there are certain foods that we can eat which stimulate progesterone. Cruciferous vegetables. Now, if you have IBS symptoms, I know, Paula, you struggle with this, you might want to steer clear, or you can get them in capsule form, which might help you because all the water's been taken out. I don't know, you would need to look at that, but it's always better to eat the food in its whole form if you can, because there are other benefits as well. You know, the whole plant has a synergistic effect. So beans, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, cauliflower, nuts, pumpkin, spinach, whole grains, walnuts, you know, these kinds of foods will really help progesterone. But you also need to try to maintain a healthy body weight to balance progesterone as well. So over-exercising can actually diminish your progesterone. And when we are stressed, the body actually steals progesterone and turns it into cortisol. It's called pregnenolone steal. That much I know. I love a big word. So, yeah, you know, stress, no good, really. But it's hard to avoid. You know, stress is not going away. It's probably getting worse. So that's why we need to learn to manage it better, really. Meditation, mindfulness, breathing, those sorts of things have never been more important, you know, in this modern world that we live in, but also if we are hitting menopause or perimenopause. Okay, so that was progesterone. Let's talk about testosterone. Testosterone is not just a male hormone. We need it. It's a female hormone too, and it's derived from DHEA, which is produced in the adrenal glands, but it's also made in the ovaries as well. So what does testosterone deficiency actually look like then? So it looks like a loss of sex drive. It looks like loss of muscle mass or sarcopenia. It looks like fatigue, chronic fatigue, decrease in bone density, depression, achy joints, fibromyalgia type symptoms, and just a lack of motivation and va-va-voom and get up and go. So of course it comes as no surprise that adrenal fatigue and chronic low-grade stress will deplete your testosterone. Why? Because your body is not prioritizing confidence and va-va-voom. If you're stressed, your body is prioritizing survival. So it's in survival mode. Okay. So other things that affect your testosterone levels are, of course, things like autoimmune disease, having had a hysterectomy, or your ovaries removed. So, you know, when there is a decrease in testosterone, we need to look at other ways of getting it into our system. But before I go into that, I wanted to say that when we're looking at decreased libido, because libido is a big player in menopause and testosterone, we need to ask ourselves, is libido decreased estrogen? Is it estrogen dominance? Is it testosterone levels lowering? Or is it adrenal fatigue? You know, there's so many different options as to what, you know, where it's all pinpointing to. But of course, it could be that it's all of it. It could be that the testosterone is really being affected by stress. I know for me, stress is my big player. Stress affects my hormones probably more than blood sugar. even though blood sugar is another big player that we're going to talk about, but if I had to prioritize, when I looked at my Dutch test when it came back, I wasn't insulin resistant, although I was kind of on the verge of becoming insulin resistant, but my cortisol level, I was so stressed that my cortisol was just gone, and it had been transformed into cortisone, which is an inactive form of cortisol. And what that does is it wipes you out. So it stops you. It literally stops you from having any energy, so you cannot do anything. That's burnout. And when you've had too much stress in your life, and your body is trying to protect you, it will burn you out so that you don't take on anything else. It's wonderful, really. I was saying before, symptoms, they are wonderful. We need to embrace our symptoms because our body is always working for us to protect us. So we might think that burnout is a bloody nuisance, but it's telling us something. It's telling us we need to modify our life. Okay, where was I? So how can we increase testosterone? Well, you can take a hormone replacement, you could take testing, but to be honest with you, why not create it yourself? Because you have that potential. Hormone replacement therapy, I believe, is good as a kind of boat to get you to the other side. But, over the long term, we need to find ways of regulating our hormones ourselves. And the way that we can do it is via strength training. Strength training has been the single most amazing thing I've done for myself in a very long time. So when you develop and you build your muscles, you increase your testosterone, because the more muscle you have, it triggers the testosterone being produced. So, lifting weights doesn't have to be, you don't have to get in the gym with all the sweaty guys. You can lift weights in your own home. You can lift light weights. You can definitely, build up core strength, glute strength. Leg strength is a big, big, big one, because our leg muscles are so big. If we can work on building our leg strength, then it helps testosterone. But word of caution, if you do exercise too hard, you can end up depleting your progesterone. But I think most of us probably are in danger of exercising too little rather than too much. But it's definitely something just to keep in check, because, I've worked with anorexics and body dysmorphic clients in the past who have had exercise addictions, and, their periods stop. And there's a reason for that, because you're stealing away all of that progesterone. Strength. Another reason why strength training is really good at menopause is because at menopause, women tend to have their concerns about their self-image. We look different. Sorry, that's my Alexa. Our face is changing, our body is changing, maybe our skin's sagging a little bit. Maybe we've put weight on around the middle, and we are becoming more and more conscious about the way that we look. And so strength training actually gives us an opportunity to change our physical makeup and to start reshaping our bodies, which is super empowering and does wonders for your confidence. Now, I'm all for body positivity, absolutely, but I think it's really important that we don't use body positivity as an excuse to stay unhealthy, especially at menopause. Okay, so adrenaline and cortisol. So during menopause, we find that our adrenaline and cortisol go through the roof. They spike. Now, I want to talk to you I want to talk to you about something called the HPA axis. And the HPA axis is like a feedback loop, and it becomes very, very activated in menopause. And that's why things like hypnotherapy can really help, because they help you to reframe this stress. So I'm going to tell you what the HPA axis is. But hang on. So it's H stands for hypothalamus, P stands for pituitary, and A stands for your adrenals. So they all talk to each other. So your hypothalamus is busy detecting and interpreting things as stress, which then sends a signal to your pituitary gland that goes, we're stressed, we need adrenaline. So your pituitary gland then sends a signal to your adrenals to release adrenaline, cortisol, and you get this instant energy, and you get this instant energy, which helps you to deal with a perceived threat. Now, the more adrenaline and cortisol you have, the more you perceive things as stressful. So this HPA axis goes on a loop. And, you know, it's really difficult to break that loop. Of course, it's not impossible. There are ways that we can do that through mindfulness, meditation, reframing stress, breathing, hypnotherapy, diet and lifestyle. They're all good ways of seeing stress differently. So, yeah, because stress is never going away, so the way that you perceive it actually is of paramount importance. So another reason why you get more stressed at perimenopause is because of the FSH levels, the follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone decline. They are changing, and this causes this HPA axis to become more reactive. Okay, so estradiol, which is a form of estrogen, has the effect of really tempering and rebalancing this limbic activity and making sure that this negative feedback loop sort of stays in check. So, you know, all through my 20s and early 30s, stress didn't bother me. I wasn't stressed. I was living my life on the edge. And then suddenly at 37, I felt this just surge of stress go through my body. And it was really, really, I remember the day it happened. It was just became very difficult to deal with. So, you know, estrogen is protective. It regulates this HPA axis. It keeps it in check. And progesterone too regulates the HPA axis. So we can see how our sex hormones literally protect the body against that stress reaction. And when our sex hormones start to decline, we're no longer protected against this stress response. So, as I said, there is a lot that we can do in terms of our own stress management at perimenopause. You know, this is a time when we are learning. We are going through so much. We are going through a lot of change. And, you know, if we can alter our perception of stress, maybe improve our resilience. I know cold water exposure is very, very good for improving your resilience. And, you know, we can learn, we can implement these little things into our lives that can help us to create better coping skills, better resilience. You know, really this is all about helping the body to avoid aging. And I don't know if any of you have seen Goop Lab on Netflix, but the episode with Wim Hof talking about cold exposure is amazing. There's a woman on there who has so much anxiety. She has anxiety disorder and panic disorder. She literally has panic attacks every day, and she jumped into freezing cold water and she did it. It is scary, and there's definitely ways of doing it. Start with a leg or an arm under a cold shower and then build up to it. But definitely cold water exposure. And Paula, you mentioned about hot flushes. Cold water really helps to strengthen your vascular system. So obviously when you go in the cold, your veins clench, and then when you go in the warm, they expand. So, you know, if we can work the vascular system like we work our muscles, we are really going to be helping our longevity. And they recommend, I I think it's 10, if you're having cold, hot shower therapy, 10 seconds hot, 20 seconds cold and 10 seconds warm. And if you do that for, I think they said 10 minutes, but that seems like a long time. But certainly, start low and build up. What have you got to lose? Try it out and see what the benefits are. This is all about being curious and really taking control of our own lives at perimenopause and deciding that we want to be in charge of our health, and really being at the helm of the ship, and everybody else is sort of working for you. So yeah, that curiosity goes a long way. Okay, let's talk about thyroid. So the thyroid is known as the queen of your endocrine system, and she is responsible for your metabolism regulation and your temperature regulation, and she will not be happy if everything else is out of whack too. So she's very, very susceptible to stress, and she's very, very susceptible to lack of sleep, and she will stop working properly if there's been this chronic low-grade stress for a long, long time. So what we do know is that your thyroid does not like stress at all, and we know that during menopause, this lowering estrogen plays a big part in the HPA axis dysregulation. So the increased stress that we feel at menopause is definitely going to affect your thyroid function, even if it's just a teeny little bit. But I know a lot of women do suffer with this hypothyroidism at menopause. However, it is important to note that it might not be just menopause. It might be that your thyroid, you have hypothyroid, and it's very, very important to get that checked, because if it goes unchecked, it puts an awful lot of pressure on your hypothalamus and you end up with massive brain fog. My partner had hypothyroidism for 3 years. He ballooned, and he's a tough old cookie, and he didn't really sort of feel into what was going on with him until he got a lump in his neck and went to the doctors. Turns out he had hypothyroidism, and he literally went straight on the medication and shed all of that weight pretty much instantly. So yeah, it's a big player. So it's really important to get your thyroid levels checked at menopause, just to make sure that it's not underactive. So when you are getting tested by the doctor, ask for a full profile. Ask for your TSH, your T3, T4, your thyroid antibodies, and your reverse T3 and reverse T4 as well. And then get a printout and ask a functional medicine practitioner or a health coach that can interpret those results, get them to look at them for you. So from a sort of metaphysical point of view as well, the thyroid is very indicative of communication, and I often find that people with thyroid issues do have these communication issues, and they find it really, really hard to ask for what they want. And I spoke about this today with a lady. We did a podcast episode, and one of the issues that came up was that it's really important for women at menopause to start asking for help, because we do feel trapped, we do feel powerless. Sometimes we feel like there's absolutely no hope, but there is hope. There's so many answers out there, and even if it's just help with the washing, or help with the kids, or help with the business, or help with changing the bedding, or whatever, ask your partners for help. It's so important to rally the troops, ask your friends, because we are better together. We can't do this all alone. And I think women have this problem in that we think we should be doing it all, really. Maybe it's that mothering instinct as well. We see things that need doing, unlike chaps, perhaps, who are much more sort of in the moment, but we're always kind of looking out and seeing what needs to be done, really. And I think perimenopause offers us this opportunity to stop doing that and to actually speak up and ask. But it's challenging because it requires us to do something new, do something different. Okay, so insulin. So a lot of women at menopause, this is the last one, by the way, so hang in there. A lot of women at menopause do become insulin resistant. My mum is insulin resistant. This is why I'm so passionate about all of this. I've had a lot of exposure to it. Basically, this means that the insulin in their bodies stops working efficiently because it's been overworked for many, many years as a result of eating too much sugar, too many carbs, and being exposed again to this long-term low-grade stress, because stress has an effect on your blood glucose as well, not just sugar. And so does things like caffeine. So when it comes to menopause, we can kind of see how it's all interlinked. So your stress levels are going up at menopause, and to self-medicate, you reach for the wine, you reach for the alcohol. I mean, alcohol is basically turns to sugar in the blood, right? So alcohol is basically sugar. You might reach for the cakes, you might reach for the biscuits. Maybe it's your only solace at the end of the day and you just look forward to it. But you end up trapped in this cycle maybe for years, and that was my mum as well. And this cycle's not good because your blood sugar levels fluctuate all the time, and it's really indicative of instability. So, they drop, you eat, you get shaky, you eat to raise your blood sugar, your insulin has to kind of crack its whip to balance the blood sugar, and it gets very exhausted if it's used a lot. So, and it becomes somewhat ineffective. And, just like everything really plateaus, so does insulin. You can get resistant to any hormone if you are exposed to it for too long. So lack of sleep also affects our insulin. Disturbed sleep disruption will affect our insulin levels, because when you don't sleep, you get an increase in ghrelin, which is the hormone that makes you hungry. So you eat more when you haven't had enough sleep. And again, you're in that vicious cycle. Stress makes your blood sugar fluctuate, which requires more insulin to balance it. So it's not just sugar that affects blood glucose, it's stress as well. And what you find is as well with a lot of my clients who are stressed, they're eating late at night. And this causes you to have a massive dip in blood sugar in the middle of the night, which then wakes you up. Because when you have that dip in blood sugar, you get a spike of adrenaline and cortisol. You get a spike of adrenaline and cortisol, which then affects your insulin levels again. And, if you can't sleep, that's going to affect your insulin as well. So insulin is a massive, like I said before at the beginning, controlling those blood sugar fluctuations is so key to having a healthy menopause. We need to increase more protein. One of the best ways to improve insulin is fasting, overnight fasting. So my mum fasts from, I think it's like 6 until, it's a 12-hour, or maybe it's 16 hours. I think she's on a 16-hour fast. But if you don't want to do that, try a 12-hour fast, or an 11-hour fast, or a 10-hour fast. Try it and build up, see how you go. When we fast, magic happens in the body. Now, long-term fasting is obviously not good, but short-term fasting, the body begins to divert its attention to those things that need healing, as opposed to just sort of day-to-day management. So we get a massive chance to heal and repair in those hours that we fast. Okay, so I've spoken about all of the hormones. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're getting stuff from it. But my last question, or the last area that I really want to explore, is how can we help ourselves? So, providing you're still having periods, every month you're literally getting like a progress report on the state of your hormones, and you have a choice. You can either hit the snooze button and take some ibuprofen or self-medicate with sugar. But then if you do, you literally carry all of that baggage into menopause. So how your PMT is, how your periods are literally how your menopause is going to be. Or you have the opportunity to really take stock, to address some lifestyle issues, to address what's going on in you energetically, psychologically, behaviorally, habitually, so that you can become happier and healthier. So menopause is literally like a wake-up call. We have choices at menopause, and it's a good thing. I know it's normally shrouded in crisis, but if we can move through it, then we have the opportunity to have a really, really good time and to become authentic and to become happy and to become healthy. So a lot of people call it life laundry, and I quite like that expression. It's ironing out the crinkles, and really about prioritizing yourself, getting the rest and relaxation that you need, reducing the stress, getting the nutrition that you need, cutting out the alcohol, because alcohol is just not good for you at this time of life. And often, to do these things, to address these things, you literally need to become a different person. And you need to become a different person because the current programming that makes up the person that you are is causing you to have these unhealthy habits or behaviors or feelings towards yourself. Based on childhood, based on trauma, based on just perpetual ways of being that you've just been doing for many, many years. So it really becomes about, reevaluating your values, looking at what they are. Are you more interested in the way other people perceive you than the way you feel about yourself? Are you putting yourself last? Are you prioritizing your self-care? Because that's what it's all about at the end of the day at menopause. And the other thing I wanted to say was that studies show that social factors are often more predicative than biological factors as to whether women will develop symptoms. And I think this is super, super interesting. I can't remember where that study came from, but it was definitely done. So social factors become really, really important, not just biological factors. So social factors basically means that, you need to be happy in the workplace. You need to have hobbies. You need to have a creative outlet. You need to have happy, healthy relationships. You need to have plenty of amenities around you. You need to not feel isolated. You need to feel like you've got someone that you can reach out to. So all of these things as well go alongside the biological aspects of menopause. We can't separate our external from our internal. What do they call it? Bio, psycho, social. That's the new buzzword. It's a bit of a mouthful. But, we are looking at an entire holistic approach to this. So personally, I think, it's important to open the conversation around menopause, talk about it to everyone. Let's get this conversation started. And, when you are looking at reducing menopausal symptoms, what you are really doing is looking at ways that you can avoid degeneration. This is about becoming more youthful, warding off the aging process, and regenerating yourself, not degenerating. So anything that is good for regeneration is going to be good for menopause, really. Okay, and breathe. So I know this is huge. This is such a huge topic, and actually can be really, really overwhelming when we take stock and when we look at our lives and when we think, flipping heck, so many changes needed here. Or maybe not, maybe just a few little tweaks, but it can become overwhelming. But it's really important that we start now, that we start today. We get that one thing booked in the diary that's really going to help us to improve any or all of those things that I've been speaking about. How can you improve your sleep, your stress levels, your sugar, your estrogen dominance, your nutrition, all of those things. So just start now, start today, do one thing, because you know, the longer you leave it, the worse it gets. You have to start now. You have to start today. You know, I didn't exercise for 3 years, not properly anyway. And I'm so glad I've started now. I wouldn't be without it because it has such profound life-changing effects, this strength training. Now, this brings me to my next point, that most of us know what we need to do. We know we need better sleep. We know we need better nutrition, better exercise. We know we need to do the life laundry. We know we need to clear out the trauma, but we don't, because we're blocked, because there's resistance there, because there's old habits which are dying hard. So if you want to find out, of course, how RTT can help you, then please just drop me a direct message or send me an email. Tell me what's bothering you, and maybe we can have a chat about it and help you to feel better. We can look at what solutions there are for you. Every woman is different. Every woman needs a different approach, a tailored approach. And, you know, let's start talking. All right, folks. Thank you so much for listening. I've really enjoyed doing this live. It took me all day. I'll be honest, it took me all day to prepare, but I'm so glad I did because I've learned so much and I hope you have. All right, lovelies, take care. Bye.